Good evening, everyone. My name is Rodney Arthur. I'm the principal and the proud principal of Tuckahoe Middle High School. So tonight's tonight's presentation is been designed to really give you a good idea of what the college planning process entails. As I said before, for those who just arrived, I've been through the process myself, not just as a principal, but my two daughters have gone through the process. I have a daughter right now that's at University of Miami. She's in the second year. And my youngest daughter, she graduated last year, and she's attending George Washington University. If you read my letter or if you heard me speak, one of my daughters really went through a very difficult time with the pandemic and really had a significant impact in terms of mental health. So she needed to take a gap year so she can be her best self when she moves on to college. So this is going to be a gap year for her, and then she'll start George Washington University next year. So I share with you being a parent because I'm a parent first before I'm an administrator. I never take the parent hat off, so I always look at things through the lens of being a parent. I just don't know any other way. So just from the outset, this is one of several presentations. Each of your children will be invited, along with you, to come in and meet one-on-one with your child's school counselor to have a more in-depth experience in terms of what the college planning process should look like. Some of the things you're going to hear from the counselors, but I just want to give you a brief overview. So that it requires looking at students' transcripts, making sure they have all the credits and what they need. Also thinking about what are some things that your child, your scholar may want to consider in terms of majoring or what have you. They do not need to decide a college major now, as you probably know. My daughter's at the University of Miami. She's undeclared, undecided, and that's okay. And my daughter, who's going into at George Washington University next year, she's already into fashion, but that may change. So these things do change, but the bottom line is just to understand the process. So reviewing your child's transcript, making sure that you know exactly where they stand, looking at other interests that would help you determine where you want to apply to. If you want to apply to local school, if you want to apply to school out of state, there are a number of different factors that really play into that. So the school counselor is going to spend that time, ask questions, and go through that process so you're well informed and you're making the right decision. Okay? So you'll hear more about that shortly. So just a quick slide on just the administrative team. Most of you might know Mr. Bella. He's been a Bella for 8 years, as well as Mr. Calisano. So this is the administrative team. So in your folder, just want to make sure you know what's in your folder. So to the left of your folder, one of the things we wanted to make sure parents are aware of, we have a list of colleges that are already scheduled to come in over the course of the next 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. So we provided that because sometimes, again, being a parent, your child, your scholar may not come home and share information. So we want to make sure that you have this list. Behind that list, we also put together a list of college fairs that are coming up so you're fully aware. Going into, just reverting back to the initial list, which looks like this, these are all the colleges that are already confirmed to visit our school. The process, and again, you'll hear about it, your child is going to hear 3 different ways that they can really participate in this. They're going to get an email. There's going to be an announcement. This is going to be posted. So your child can just come in and be a part of that process and meet with the college rep during the scheduled visit. So we want to make sure that you have this schedule. To the right of the folder, you have a copy of tonight's presentation. It's also being recorded, and we'll post it on the webpage. In addition to that, we will send this PowerPoint presentation out as an email blast, a Connect Ed blast, so parents have it and it's easy for you to access. We'll also put this presentation on our school webpage just to make sure you have access. So we thought it was very important just to put up a little bit of information in terms of where some of our students have gone to school, and here are 2 of our outstanding students from last year. Some of you may know them. We have Yuri and Sophia, valedictorian, salutatorian, who did an amazing job last year and are doing quite well. a picture of last year's graduating class. So envision your child is going to be taking a similar photo. We wanted to show you so we can just dream ahead, because this is going to go by very quickly. It's amazing how quickly the school year goes by. Listed here are some of the colleges and universities that our students have been accepted to and are attending now. So we want to also include that. Obviously, as a school, we're always looking to try to make sure that our students are getting into some of the most competitive colleges. So we are definitely making that a focus. So here's a quote that I say to our scholars quite frequently. And it has significant meaning, especially for seniors. Do something today that your future self will thank you for, right? So colleges not only look for good academic grades, but they're also looking to see if you're a well-rounded individual. Do you play sports? Are you volunteering? Are you involved in community service, right? These things really matter. So this quote has really significant meaning in terms of how you're applying yourself. Do something today that your future self would thank you for. Just before I turn the slide over, for those of you who have not met me before, I'm a passionate educator. What we do matters. It matters significantly. Our focus is really supporting the district-wide mission, preparing students for excellence, not just inside the classrooms, but in all their experience in school. But academic excellence is something that's a major focus for us. Coming in, some of the things that I've done immediately that you may not see, but certainly will impact your children, is just things such as we put together what's called an add-drop form. So our students sometimes may not realize, they're taking a class and all of a sudden they want to drop the class, and it's second marking period. Colleges can look at that in just not a favorable way, right? So we put that process in place, and you'll be surprised how many students have not dropped classes, right? So we want students to challenge themselves. We want them to be well-rounded. We want to make sure they're really preparing themselves for the next phase of their life, which is college and beyond. So before I pass the mic, are there any questions so far? Okay. Without any further, Mr. Treglia.
Good evening, everyone. A little bit, right? This is an exciting time. It's an exciting time for everyone here. It's an exciting time for Ms. Perlo and I to work with you, your family, the students on the college process. Everyone take a breath. We're going to be in for a ride, but there's a college for everyone. We're prepared, we're organized, we have great students in the school doing great things. We're going to find the right college for you and your family, okay? Tonight is the first step in the process. We will be meeting with everyone individually, and that's where we get more detailed approach into specific colleges with a data-driven approach. Okay, if you have any questions at all through the process, please feel free to contact Ms. Perlo and myself. We'd be happy to talk to you at any time. And no question is a silly one. Sometimes parents call and then they call right back. You're supposed to do that. There's a lot going on. Feel free to contact us, all right? Don't feel that you're bugging us. People call and then they call right back or they email us with another question. It's okay, all right? There's a lot of things going on in the college process, especially after COVID, that there should be some questions. So right now, if you can see up top, this is our guidance website. It's a really one-stop shop for all the information located in a central area where you can access our information in the guidance process. When logging on to Naviance, you really want to use this website to access Naviance. It goes directly to the Naviance account. Each student in senior year in 11th grade has a Naviance account, and you'll be getting familiar with that. You'll be hearing that word over and over. We're going to use that to send applications, to ask teachers for letters of recommendation, to do something called the scattergram and look at data on GPA, SAT, ACT scores, and the mean of what certain colleges are looking for when you're applying. What type of students are they accepting? What type of students are they waitlisting or denying? And where have Tuckahoe students been successful applying and going to in the past? All that data is inside the Naviance program. On the left-hand side of our website, there's multiple tabs on the left-hand side. There's a tab for a student profile. There's this tab for scholarships. which really kick off around January. There's a tab for NCAA Clearinghouse, which has to do with athletics. There's tabs for signing up for the SAT, ACT. There's tabs for Naviance. So all the students in the room should be comfortable with that and should communicate with mom and dad how to look for it and how to access it. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to contact us. Our contact information is up on the screen, both of the counselors and the counselor secretary. So please contact us at any time.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm just going to touch on the individual meetings. Mrs. Nicoletto sent out something called a sign-up genius, so you should have received that via email. There you can register for your individual college meeting. So we are going to go in detail and in depth over everything we cover tonight and more in that meeting and specific to your child. So please make sure you registered for one. We start tomorrow morning, and that's really the kickoff for your individual college process. We ask that you come with your Naviance username and password and also your common application username and password. There is a little bit of a tricky piece to this process where we connect the Common App with Naviance, and we can walk you through that in the meeting, but we need your username and password to do so. So that's one thing we ask. The other thing that we ask of you before this meeting is to take a look at your list of schools that you're interested in Naviance and try and narrow that down to the list of students, list of colleges that you're actually interested in applying in at that point. So we left off with our junior meetings, and in our junior meetings we spoke about a broad list of schools, and hopefully over the summer you took some time to explore and maybe do some visits and narrow down that list. So if you're at that point, it's wonderful. We also expect some of our students have at least a rough draft of their college essay at this point as well. So if you didn't sign up, please reach out to Mrs. Nicolettos and she can resend you that sign up so you can register for a meeting. In that meeting, we'll cover everything from transcript reviews to your SAT, ACT results, we'll talk about different types of deadlines, which we'll also cover tonight. And then we'll talk about financial aid and scholarships and when you should be working on what. Tomorrow you will receive, or in your individual meeting, you'll receive another folder, just in case you didn't have enough. And in that folder, you will receive a checklist. And this kind of lets you know where you should be at in the college process. It reminds you of things that you could be doing. Some of this, if you look up here, are things that you should have been doing junior year or into the summer. So basically at this point already, again, you should have a rough draft of your college essay. You should have asked 2 teachers for letters of recommendation, but we still have time. So if you were behind, no worries. We're here to see where you're at, and we're here to support you and let you know what you still need to do. Here's the second piece to it. So it kind of goes into what to expect this year, what you should be doing in the fall. Typically, our students will be working really hard on their applications now through November, December. And we'll talk about deadlines, but now a lot of students are applying early, which moves up deadlines. So it's pretty intense the first 2 months. All of our students have also started new classes. Some of them are taking APs. So it's definitely an adjustment. It's a time management skill as well, right? So we just want to make sure we're making room in our schedules to work on the college process as well.
Letters of recommendation. As Ms. Pearl just touched on, we wanted the students to ask their teachers before they went out for the summer for letters of recommendation. But here we are in September. If you have 2 people that you've asked already, fantastic. Hopefully it's 1 math or science, and then 1 social studies / English. How do you do that? We want you to ask for letters of recommendation through the Naviance program so that it's automatically linked and the teachers can upload the letters directly to Naviance. You don't do it through the common application. Many times in our individual meetings, we're going to be showing the students how to do that. And even after we show them once or twice, they'll still come in at lunchtime or on their free period and ask us, what's wrong? How come my teacher says it's not linked? We're happy to help, okay? This is a new thing for many people. Please, if you haven't done that yet, you want to start asking the teachers for letter of recommendations this week. The teachers can get overwhelmed or bombarded with a lot of requests. So you want the teachers to be fresh and ready to go when writing your letter of recommendation. So it's always good to ask earlier than wait to October or November when they have 20 other requests and they're going to have, it's going to be a little stressful for them. So if you could take one thing from this meeting, all the students in the room, please make sure you've asked 2 teachers for letters of recommendation in the next week, okay? The college essay. Each student in 12th grade is working with Miss Iverson, the 12th grade English teacher, on the personal essay. It's part of the curriculum of Miss Iverson's class to work on the essay. All the students should feel comfortable setting up appointment times with Miss Iverson before or after school, on a free period, or during her own lesson to talk about this. We're here to support you. We're here to work with you. We work with Mrs. Iverson. We're happy to read some of the personal essays if you feel comfortable. Many students ask us to read the essay if they feel comfortable with us, and we read it and we give feedback. We're happy to work with you on the essay. You can come to our office and say, hey, what do you think about what I wrote? Do you think this is showing me in the best light to a college? And you want to remember, think about if you're the admissions rep and you're the person who's reading the personal essay and you have stacks of applications to go through. What can you do to catch their eye in the first paragraph or the first 2 sentences? You don't want to write what a typical Westchester student writes about, if possible. You want to try to write something out of the box, or an experience you had that was meaningful, or something creative. And we're happy to work with you and develop those ideas. Miss Iverson is the expert, and she's happy to edit your paper and go over it, but you should reach out to one of the faculty members, one of the counselors. The personal essay is it's so important right now in 2023, 2024. It really can separate you from being admitted to waitlisted to denied. With a lot of test optional colleges, right now the personal essay is really where they get to know you as a person outside of the numbers, and it can get you into certain colleges if you really write one that's descriptive and passionate and creative and out of the box. So that's one of the things you can target this fall.
All right, so I'm going to go over application, deadlines, and admissions type. Bear with me a little bit. There are 2 major programs. I know you've heard us mention Naviance. So Naviance is a program we use to explore different colleges and come up with lists. And then there's the Common Application. The Common Application is the website that we use to actually fill out our college applications, make the payment, and submit them. These 2 work hand in hand together and allow us as a school to send documents. So you'll hear me mention those frequently. There's different application types. The Common Application has thousands of colleges on it. Most of the colleges that your student will be interested in applying to should be on the Common Application. You can apply up to 20 colleges. Typically, a student applies from anywhere between like 7 and 10 colleges, but you have the option to apply up to 20 colleges on the Common Application. The other type of application students use is the CUNY application. That's the City University of New York. So these are our city universities, and most of them are not on the Common Application. The CUNY application is separate. You can, for one fee of $65, rank up to 7 different CUNY schools. So that is, if you're considering going to a CUNY school, that's definitely a different application that you're going to need to do. The beauty of the Common Application is that it streamlines the process for you. You put in your basic information, your demographics, your school history once, and it gets sent. That piece gets sent to all of those schools you're applying to automatically, so you don't have to retype that information into separate applications. So if the first thing to do would be to look and see if it's on the Common Application, but if not, you might have to use a different one. There's also something called Coalition, which is another website that has multiple colleges on it that we see sometimes, but not so frequently. And then there's the private applications. So there are some schools that are not on Common App that you need to apply directly through their university or college. So those are the different application types. Deadlines and admissions. So this is a really important piece, and this will kind of give you a timeline of when you need to get going and when you need to end. So there is something called regular admissions, and regular admissions doesn't usually have a deadline until around January 1st or 15th. So you have a lot of time. Colleges will wait and then look at all of the regular decision applicants and make a decision. You may not find out until later in the spring of your senior year where you get in. There's also something called rolling admissions. And rolling admissions means that as soon as you submit your application, that college or university will begin to look at it and give you a decision shortly thereafter. And then there's early action. And I think last year about 70% of our senior class applied early action, which means most of our seniors had at least one of their applications done by December, I'd say. So those deadlines are November 1st, November 15th, December 1st. It varies by school. But that means that we're really kind of hitting the ground running now, right? So we're starting, and those are deadlines. Deadlines are the last date you can submit something. We want to try and still, even if you're applying early, we still want to get that in before the deadline. And for us and for guidance, we ask that you submit a processing form. Once you apply, you should let us know at least a week before the deadline, so it gives us time to send your paperwork over. So if you have a November 1st deadline, you not only have to get your application in, but we have to get our documents in by that date. And also, if you're sending SAT or ACT scores, those have to be into the college at the same time by that deadline. So early action's a wonderful thing to do if a college offers it, because you find out earlier your senior year where you've been accepted. It gives you time to go take a few more visits, decide where you want to attend. Sometimes schools will put you off and defer you to regular decision, but it's still, there's no harm in applying early action. But there's also no academic advantage to getting in a school early action. The last admissions type is something called early decision. And early decision also has early deadlines, as early as November 1st and 15th, but it's a binding process. That means that you are promising one school and one school only that if you get accepted, you will attend that school. So you sign off, the student signs off, the parent signs off, and we as a school sign off on that. So it's a serious commitment that you're making. And if you are 100% sure, it is a wonderful tool that will give you an advantage to getting in a school. For example, Northeastern, which is in Boston, last year, the admissions rate was 5.6 for regular admissions. If you applied early decision, that jumped up to a 28% acceptance rate. So that's a huge discrepancy there. So it definitely gives you an advantage. But it's a hard decision to make. I would say only under a handful of kids every year apply early decision. So it's something to think about. We're happy to work with you and see if it's appropriate, and we can talk about it if that is. In our individual meetings, we'll also show you where you can see what colleges offer which admissions types. So it varies by school. Some will have early decision, some will not. Typically, the state schools do not have early decision. So we'll show you where you can access all that information. Common Application has a button that you can click that actually will line up your colleges by deadline, so you know which applications you should be working on first. We'll also show you where you can access that in our meetings as well. That just helps you to organize it pretty much. There is some strategy involved too. There is something called Early Decision 2. So you might decide, oh, I'm going to apply early action to multiple schools. Let's say you did not get into the school you wanted to. There's an Early Decision 2 to a school that you've been interested in. You can then apply to Early Decision 2, which is also a binding process but has a later deadline. Again, not all colleges offer that, and we will help you navigate this process. I'm going to briefly go over Naviance. So Naviance we have used together last year in our junior meetings. The students should be well aware of how to work it by this point. Naviance, again, helps us to create a list of schools that have safety, target, and reach schools within that list, okay? So just a reminder, safety schools are schools that we're confident you're gonna get into. Target schools you're right on track for. And reach schools are a little bit academically above you, but we're gonna go for it anyways, okay? So we will look at your list together. Naviance has these scattergrams, as you can see up on the board. So this example is Marist College. All of the green dots are students in the past from Tuckahoe High School who've been accepted to Marist. The X's are students who've been denied, and then the blue is waitlisted or deferred. When we pull up your student's Naviance, it will mark your student specifically with a red circle. If that red circle is to the top right among the pack of green, we know that you have a decent chance of getting into that school. If the red circle is below and to the left and kind of surrounded by red X's, we know that that's going to be a reach school. So that helps us to kind of decipher your chances a little bit based on the history of our specific students at Tuckahoe. So you would use this data in combination with the data that you find on their personalized websites about what type of student they accept. One other thing, in Naviance, there is a tab. If you click under colleges, there's something called Rep Visits, and we have a lot of different representatives from colleges who will be in our guidance office the first few months of the school year. For example, if a Marist rep is coming, you can sign up, and you're interested in attending Marist, that student can sign up to meet individually in our office or in a small group, depending on how many of our students are interested, and it's a great opportunity to get to know the college and the admissions officers. A lot of times the admissions representatives in our office are the people that are actually going to be reading your application. So it's worth it to make a good impression and to ask some great questions and prepare. And if you have any questions, students, on what to say or what questions to ask, we can help you with that as well.
So on the screen, we're just showing a tab about ACT, SAT. It's important to know, all students, it's important to know that you have to send your scores directly from SAT or ACT to the college you're applying to. The Common Application does not send your SAT, ACT scores to the college. So if you're taking the SAT and you want to send the scores, you go to the SAT College Board website, you go to the SAT Score Report section, and you send your scores to the schools that you want to apply to. If you're taking the ACT, you go to myact.org, you go to the test site where the scores are, and you send your scores from the ACT to the college. There are some schools and some strategies of test optional, and we'll get into that as we go on further in the presentation. Also, a good tip is after you apply to a college, you want to give a week or two and then check in with that college. Did you receive all my material? It's always good to double check. They're getting more applications than you can even imagine right now. So you want to make sure that they have everything that they need from your portfolio. You can send an email to the admissions rep 2 weeks after you apply and make sure that they have everything that you want to show them. Before you apply to a school, you do want to send your SAT scores or ACT scores about a week or two before you click that button on Naviance and send. You want to send them the scores ahead of time if you can. I know some students are taking the SAT, ACT in the fall. Maybe your scores won't be ready by the time you apply. That's okay too. The colleges have an electronic folder of your application. They will add your scores if you're taking a test in the fall. All right, here we go. Key admissions tips and strategies. Students, first things first, there is a fair at the Southern Westchester College Fair on October 24th. We encourage everyone to go there. It's at the Westchester County Center. What a great place to get to see a number of colleges, to meet people, to introduce yourselves to the colleges. This is a great first step on top of all of the colleges that are visiting Tuckahoe High School or what you can visit virtually. You can get in front of some admissions reps at the Westchester County Center on Tuesday, October 24th. While you're there, what should you do? What should you ask? You should be prepared with 2 or 3 questions for the rep. Tell me about your top 3 majors at this school. Is this a commuter school, or do kids live on campus? Do they have the major that I want to study? Right? You always want to make sure the college you're going to go to has the major you're thinking of studying. All right? And one thing I would think is very important, especially with the competitiveness of what's going on, is ask the rep for their business card. Don't be shy. It's about relationships. You want to separate yourself from the other students in Westchester, Fairfield County, New York City that are applying to very similar schools. Ask the rep for a business card. Email the rep a few nights later. Thank you for meeting me at the Westchester County Center. I loved our conversation. I remember we talked about this one topic. And I'll be in touch 2 weeks from now, letting you know some of the cool things I'm doing at Tuckahoe High School in the fall. Don't be shy. They want to hear from you. It makes their job easier. They're trying to recruit the best students for their campus. And you reaching out to them is showing them what you have. You're making their job easier. They want to hear from you. They want to hear from the student. They don't really want to hear from mom or dad or guardian. They want to hear from the student. So if you can do one thing at the fair or at the meeting in our office is grab their business card and communicate with them. It's going to help your application process out. Demonstrated interest is key. They do keep track of, did you see them at the fair? Did you visit their school on their campus? Are you liking their social media post? When they came to Tuckahoe, were you there? Were you present? Did you sign in? All these things come into consideration when they're weighing your application. So if there's 3 to 5 schools that you're certain about, please communicate with them regularly. Don't wait 2 months. They do keep track of how many times you're communicating with them in all different ways. Students are most happy at college and do well where they feel comfortable, where they feel they want to live for the next 4 years. And you get that feeling from visiting a campus, hopefully more than once if possible, talking to a professor, going to the main union area and eating lunch and seeing what the kids are like. Can you see yourself there for 4 years? Or, I don't feel comfortable on this campus, let's move on to the next one. And you really only know that if you get on campus and you visit. So it's very important to visit campus, and you're going to do well, you're going to be successful if you're happy. And you only know that if you put the research in and you get on campus and see what's going on. I mentioned before, you want to make sure that the college has the program you want to study. And that's our job to talk about that in the individual meetings as well. You might have a basket of colleges, but if you want to study business and this school doesn't have a business field, then maybe that's not the right school for you. And that has to do with research and communicating with the counselors. What are your 3 top majors? And let's research the school. Do they have what you're interested in? The college also has something called the yield percentage of the colleges. The yield rate refers to percentages of the admitted students who actually enroll in the school. Usually the highly competitive colleges or colleges that everyone wants to go to have a high yield rate. They're popular. People want to go there. So if you want these schools, you need to communicate with them. You need to show them demonstrated interest. Colleges want their yield to be high. They're ranked in the World News magazine by how many percentages of students actually go to the school that have been admitted. So it's a business to it as well. And you got to remember that as we move forward, we will talk about that a little bit with you.
All right, so students will spend probably the first few months of the school year working on applications, and then when we hit kind of December or January, that's where students will focus on scholarships a bit more. So we always get questions on scholarships. Mrs. Nicoletos, our guidance secretary, puts together a scholarship bulletin of any local scholarships that she receives. This list keeps growing and growing. So I would check back, it's a live document, I would check back daily. You can go through each scholarship to see if you fit the criteria to apply to that school. It's accessible both on our guidance website and through Naviance as well. So again, you're gonna focus on your admissions, and then when you're done applying to schools, then you can take a look at the scholarships. Also, just so you know, parent, if you are a member of a union or your job, they may have separate scholarships that you don't know about, so ask around. There's other opportunities out there. Just keep your ears open a little bit. And then there's nationwide search engines. So there's something called FastWeb, where you can put in your own search criteria, and it should narrow down scholarships that you can apply to. These are definitely more competitive and more difficult to get than the local scholarships that we have on our scholarship bulletin, but it is there. And again, it's on our guidance website if you want the link to that. There is also something called the Excelsior Scholarship. So the State University of New York and City University of New York basically gives free tuition to students who would like to attend a SUNY or CUNY and their family makes under $125,000 a year. There's some other criteria. If you are interested, I can help provide that information, or Mr. Treglia can for you. And then there's financial aid. So there's something called the FAFSA, which is a form that you fill out to get federal financial aid. Typically, in the past, and if you've been through this process before with an older child, this was open on October 1st to fill out. They are revamping the FAFSA and have actually not given us a date yet for when they are going to open it this year, but it looks like it should be December. As soon as we get some firm information, we'll send that out to you. But I would say it's around December or January. So as soon as it opens, you'd really have to fill it out so that colleges can get you a financial aid package. The college will send you a financial aid package, and within that package, there's usually loans, grants, and work-study opportunities. So loans are opportunities that colleges will give you a loan, but you have to pay that money back. A grant is money that they give to you that you do not need to pay back. And work-study is a program that many colleges run where a student can work, let's say, in the library on campus and earn money that way. So there's a lot of different opportunities. When a college sends you a financial aid package, you do not need to accept all of what they're offering you. If you do not like how that loan looks, you do not need to take it, so you can evaluate it. You can even go back and ask for more money if that's something you want to do, or your home situation has changed, you can let them know as well. There's also something called a CSS profile. The CSS profile is used in addition to the FAFSA, and that's for private colleges, and that is to award non-federal funding. So this is private institutions that have their own endowments that would like to give extra money on top. So not all colleges require it. Again, you should be looking at your individual school. It is typically private schools that will require you, and those can be due and may be open October 1st. So you might this year be doing that before you fill out your FAFSA. Also, in our individual meetings, you'll receive information on both the FAFSA and the CSS profile, just so you have it. Sure.
So, as practically speaking, and if you've gone through the process, then you might know what I'm talking about. So my daughter, who's at University of Miami, she applied, it was last minute. They offered her, what you see here, merit scholarship. It must have been like $15,000. University of Miami is close to $89,000. So my daughter, she wanted to go visit. I said, sure, go visit. Of course, my wife wants to kill me because, she doesn't want to go all the way to Miami. So we sent my daughter down to Miami, but before going, one of the things that she did was she was able to write to the university and show the university other scholarship or merit scholarships she received from other schools. So some schools had offered her like $40,000, $50,000 in merit scholarship. And what she did was she sent that information to University of Miami and then met with one of the officials at University of Miami. And what led from that was they actually doubled the amount of merit scholarship that she received because she was able to show what other schools provided her or offered her, and they wanted her to come to Miami, so they sort of try to match it or meet it. So there's a lot of little things that you can do. There's a lot of money that's out there. My last school that I worked at, on average, the graduating class, and again, much larger graduating class, $29 million. All right, that the students earn between scholarship, merit, and financial aid. So there is a lot of money out there. So one of the things you're going to hear about shortly is the College Cafe, which was started by Dr. Goodman, our superintendent, last year. It's underutilized. is underutilized. It's an opportunity for students to meet with the school counselors where they can get support in terms of writing scholarship application, writing their college application. It's underutilized by our scholars. So we're trying to promote it more so students can really take advantage of it, but we need your help to let your scholars know, take advantage of the College Cafe. It really can assist you. And during the fall, the focus is really on seniors and juniors. So I just want to add that, and you'll hear a little bit more about it shortly. If you press this, you can always get the pointer.
And then just the last piece regarding financial aid is that we work with East Chester every year on providing a financial aid night to our families. So I have reached out. I'm waiting to hear when it will be held, but we will get that information out to you. It's a good opportunity if you have some specific questions about the financial aid process. There's not as much of a rush this year as there was last year because that deadline is going to be later. This is our college application processing form. It is going to be in the guidance, it is in the guidance office, and it is a bright orange sheet of paper located between both of our offices. We also will give it to you in the folder that you'll receive in your individual meeting. It is also on our website, so you can get it everywhere. When you make a payment and submit your application, you need to fill out this form to let us know that you've applied. I think sometimes students and family assume that we get an alert or we know that you apply. We do not know unless you inform us. So when you apply, you're going to be filling out this form, and you'll give it to us at least 1 week before your deadline. This form prompts us as school counselors to then go on to Naviance and send electronically our school profile, your letters of recommendation, and your transcript, your official transcript. So this is the most important form that you're going to need this year, and we just want to continually remind you, it's good we keep it in our files so we know when you've applied. We know if you should be reaching out to the school again after it. So keep an eye out for that when you get your individual form. One more thing. We mentioned this, but this is really important. There are 3 pieces that need to get to the college for it to be considered complete, your application to be complete. So the one piece is your college application that you send through Common App. The second piece is our school documents that we will supply them through Naviance. And the third piece is your official SAT or ACT score. So those 3 pieces need to make it to the school for your application to be considered complete. And like Mr. Treglia touched on before, it is also your responsibility to make sure that they have been received by the school. So you can call admissions, and usually a student will pick up and they can check your file and make sure everything is in.
The slide up there is the College Cafe slide. The College Cafe is a club that's run by Miss Perlow and myself. It's for all seniors in the fall. We invite you into our office once a week during lunch. I believe it's going to be run on Tuesdays. And we want you to come in at lunch and talk about your college process. We're going to sit down with you and go over your common application. We're going to read your personal essay. We're going to link Naviance to Common App if you need help with that. This is a great time. It's an additional source of support to you. One-on-one counseling. Doesn't have to be with your own counselor. It could be with Ms. Perlow, could be with myself. We're going to be in there working together. We've been doing this. We did it last year. It was very effective, all right? And you'll see us in the hallways trying to get you to come in the room, all right? Hold off on the Starbucks that day, all right? And come and hang out with us for 20 minutes. It could be a big help to you. We know the college process can be stressful, and sometimes people like to run away a little bit from stress. That's normal. We do that as adults. And teens do that too. But we're harmless. We just want to help you get started, okay? And we can help you get over that hump if you feel stressed out, or you feel nervous, or you don't know how to do something. Just ask, and we'll figure it out together. You know, we can advise you. Again, it's important. That personal essay is really important. It's going to take you a while to cultivate that. You should have multiple people looking at it and giving you ideas. This is a perfect time to look at that outline, to look at your first draft, and ask us for some help. We read so many essays that we have a good feel of what the admissions reps want to see and want to read and want to learn about you.
Could I interrupt for one
Sure.
second? It's also a great opportunity. a lot of students, especially students applying to the more competitive schools, have what we call supplements. So they're additional essays or questions that they need to answer, and those need to be just as perfect as the college essay. So it's a great opportunity to come in and we can help you read those and revise those. So please come in and use us.
So we didn't put any pressure on her to take the SAT. So her college application, her college essay and the supplemental were extremely important. And because of that, they also provided her with some merit scholarship. So I just want to stress, having gone through it as a parent, the essay, the supplemental pieces, they are extremely, extremely, extremely important. All right?
Your grades still count. Many in the room are taking AP classes. I can see some students who are taking 4 AP classes, some online. That's not easy to do with colleges applications, with supplementals. You're going to need additional time. Use the College Cafe as a resource. It's a quiet place where you can get some work done. Okay, so that's just, we're trying to generate some interest from the 12th graders. 11th graders, their time for the College Cafe could be the fall, but really it's in the spring. And many people in the room have come last year. We did a resume. Every 11th grader has a resume done in the spring. It's the first step in adding all your activities down chronologically. So when you fill out the common application, you have that already done, and you just refer back to it. It's hard to remember what you did in 9th grade 3 years ago. So that's why we do the resume in the spring of junior year. We also help you link the Naviance program to ask the teachers how to send their recommendations for you. Many students don't know how to do that. In junior year in the spring, we show you how to link the Naviance account to get teacher recs. We also start the process for the personal essay in the spring by trying to brainstorm what you could write about. Think about things that you've done in the summer or with your family or in your job or in school. And we try to get you motivated to work with your teacher in the spring of junior year, heading off to the summer, so you can come back senior year with a personal essay at least outline done. All right?
School. The College Cafe is open to all high school students. So we can have students in the 9th, 10th grade come in the spring and work on their resume or their vita. That's important because it's important. Some of them may look for job opportunities, what have you, and we can help them start framing that information out early. And again, this was an initiative that started by our superintendent of school because she saw the value behind that. So we really want to make sure that our scholars are really taking advantage of this opportunity. Use it. Why hire someone to help your child privately when you have the support here? So have them take full advantage of it.
Dates for seniors. And we're going to talk about this again in our individual meeting, but we just want to share it with you now. Our individual senior meetings, again, begin tomorrow. I think we have meetings at 8:30 in the morning, starting tomorrow. They go all the way through October. If you haven't signed up for one yet, that's okay. Just contact the office. We're happy to schedule a meeting with you. Generally, they run 45 minutes, an hour. We go through the whole process specifically for your student, your family, data-driven approach through the Naviance program. The reps are going to be in our building September, October, November, December. All of the rep visits are on Naviance. It's in your folder already. It's a working document. There are going to be more and more rep visits added as we move through the school year. Every morning we announce the rep visits in the morning announcements. It's hosted in our office. Sometimes they're virtual. Many times they're in person. Please be aware of the rep visits. It's very important that you come to the visit, introduce yourself to the rep, ask 2 questions, grab their business card, have positive eye contact, and be able to have a conversation with them. You want them to remember you, okay? And we have a lot of things to share at Tuckahoe High School, so please attend those rep visits. In November, again, Ms. Pearl touched on this, it's the time to really apply early action or early decision, all right? November 1st is going to come pretty fast, okay? A lot of early decision applications are due November 1st. So that means October could be pretty stressful. Let's get ahead of that, okay? Let's get ahead of that. Some schools that might be, right, November 1st early decision is for Northeastern, for example. Early action, November 15th, is for Wake Forest University. Those are just 2 examples. There's 100 schools that have early action or early decision, but we're trying to give you a flavor of the type of schools that Tier 1 schools, Tier 2 schools, that might be the right strategy for you to think about early action or early decision. And again, the trend in our school is headed that way. We had 70% applications done really by November 1st, November 15th last year. The FAFSA, like Ms. Perlow said, it's a little bit of an anomaly this year, but the FAFSA has not come out in October. We called them this week, and they're talking about mid-December, and they said wait and see. So if it is December, you can imagine throughout the country all the families that are going to be trying to fill out the FAFSA at that time. So if you could get your financial paperwork organized before then, it will only help, because it's going to be a rush, and it's new and it's different. So there might be some kinks in it. So you want to be as organized as possible before then. January, there is something called Early Decision 2. Again, the trend is, if you are thinking about early decision, it does give you a little bit of a percentage help in schools that you have the grades that meet their criteria. Usually the trend is that schools are admitting more students early decision than they are regular decision. So you do have a lot of time to research that if early decision is your path, because Early Decision 2 is in January. And then, when you get admitted to college and you decide what college you want to go to, May 1st is usually the deadline to let them know that you're going to attend. You do have to put a deposit down at least one school by May 1st. It holds your seat in the campus. It also holds your dorm room if you are going to a school that's far away. So you want to remember that. So really, the time to make that decision with your family is March, April, right? That's crunch time. But you do have to hold your seat at the campus with a deposit by May 1st.
And we'll let you ask questions. We just wanted to touch on some more frequent questions that are asked. I think the biggest question right now that we've gotten is, should I go test optional? So since COVID, many schools, most of them, have gone test optional, meaning you can choose whether or not you'd like to submit your SAT or ACT score. This has been both a good and bad thing. So applications have risen, especially among the more competitive schools, and that means that the admits have declined. So just an example is Auburn University. So before it went test optional, it had an 85% admit rate, and then it went test optional, and now it's 24%, and that's a drastic example. But students who typically may not have applied to a school will hold their test scores and choose to apply still. So maybe they'll apply to more reach schools, for example. So our typical response to this question, and it's a case-by-case basis, but if your score results are rests at or above the average or median score of the students who entered the previous freshman class, then you should submit them. If they are beneath it, we will recommend that you hold those scores. In some specific cases, if your score is really high and maybe kind of above where your GPA is, then we will still recommend you submit. But that's a case-by-case basis, and we're happy to walk you through that. But that is the general advice that we'll give. And lastly, the senior internship is always a question we get. That starts in May, typically after students have completed all of their coursework, and if they're taking an AP, they have to complete the AP exam. So that's another great opportunity for students to get some experience, some real-world experience before they start in college. So that is it for our presentation. Again, we are happy, to support you individually. Go ahead.
A little bit about the test option, and please jump in if you need to. It can be a little confusing, So one of the schools that one of my daughters applied to, I think it might have been like Hofstra University, and she applied, she liked the campus, what have you, and she wanted to do test option. But of that accepting class, Hofstra was only going to accept maybe 15% to be test optional. And then you have a whole lot of scholars who are applying test option, so it sort of makes it extremely competitive who gets in test optional. So that was one of the experiences that we had. So again, just something to think about and keep in mind. And the school counselors are here, they're available, and they're willing to assist. And there's a lot of experience between the two of them. So let's just give it up for both Ms. Perella and Mr. Traglia, please. And before they take questions, again, just want to remind you that this PowerPoint will be placed on the school webpage. We'll send it out as a blast so parents have it. It's recorded, so you can always go back, because there's a lot of information that was said tonight, and trying to, unpack it later on. If you need to go back and try to make some notes or follow up, the recording will be available to you. So if you have questions, this is the time.
Yeah, so, sure, that's a great question. So we've actually, yes, the question is, will we be showing regions, especially through COVID, on our transcripts? And we are no longer showing the region scores at all. There are so many exemptions from COVID and special appeals that it does not benefit our students. Yes, and that can be on a case-by-case basis. We can review your transcript in your individual meetings, and if you want to opt to send those scores, then we will. But again, like kind of same rule of thumb, it should be at or above like your GPA score if you are going to submit a transcript with regents on them. Yes. Oh. Yeah. Sure. Yes. The question was, how do we know if the teachers have submitted their letters of recommendation? When you log on to Naviance, the student can see their document. We also can see from our end whether or not it's been submitted. So the student is welcome to come ask us first, so they don't annoy the teachers. Yes. Yeah. And yes, back there. Sure. Yeah, so she's asking if there's an advantage or disadvantage to apply through Common App or this specific college website. The only thing I have noticed is that some schools will send out fee waiver codes, and sometimes they can only be used on that school-specific application. Last year I saw more, though, that you were able to actually use that code in Common Application. So as long as you can use the code in Common Application, then I would do so. The Common Application is much more streamlined, and there's no other advantage to it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Good question. The question is the application processing form. Should the student fill out one for each college they apply to, or can they add multiple colleges to the list? You can add as many schools to the list as you can fill out on the paper. So students put 4, 6, 8. It's just a way for us to keep track of where you have applied. We can timestamp it so that we have a record, so that everything is organized. But you want to put multiple schools on the orange sheet. And if you decide to apply later on, 2 weeks later, to other schools, then you can get another sheet from our office, and you write the schools that you've applied to later on as well.
But just to make one note, the form comes to us after you officially submit. Yeah. Yeah. A difference in timing or So he's asking if there's a difference between early decision 1 and early decision 2. Not a ton of schools offer early decision 2, so that's definitely something to look into. I think with any applications, the sooner you get applications in, the more likely you are to get accepted, right? So if you do apply early decision 2, it will give you an advantage, but you're applying after they've already accepted many people, right? So the slots that they have are getting smaller and smaller. So our advice is the sooner the better.
And Pat, it's also, it's a business for the colleges. It's a way for them to generate another opportunity for kids to apply, and if they get accepted, they have to go there, versus regular decision. So it's another way for them to help their yield, which you guys don't really need to know about, but it's part of the college's marketing their school, and it's also a business for them, how they can generate income by people having to go to the school if they're accepted early decision, even if it's early decision 2.
And with early decision, you may be accepted and you don't yet know your financial aid package, and you've already signed documents saying that you're going. And of course, there are some rare exceptions where you can pull out, but it's pretty frowned upon. So you have to be willing to commit to all of the things beforehand. Yes. Yes, so this is another question about early decision too. Yes, you can put in 15 applications before regular decision and early action. You just cannot apply to another school early decision. No, so you'd have to, it's one, so she's asking if you can apply to the same school, regular decision and early decision. You can't, you'd have to choose one admissions type, yeah. Yes. Yes. Sure. Sure. So we have faced this. You actually need to provide like financial documentation as to why you can't go. It's also just as part of the Tuckahoe community. It kind of is. It's not a wonderful look for our school, right? So we're signing off as a school, and if colleges and institutions don't trust us, right, they may not accept us in the future for early decision. So it's kind of a trust thing that we build with these colleges. So that's why we work together to make sure that it's the right and appropriate decision. But it is a great tool to be used if appropriate.
What also happened is this: you have some schools, high schools, that start to develop a relationship with some of the universities. They get to know your course offering, they get to know the caliber of scholars that come out of universities. One of the things that Ms. Perello mentioned, and I just want to add to a little bit, she mentioned something about our college profile. Our college profile is our resume. That's what the universities take a look at when they're judging the caliber of school that you have. They look at the courses that you offer, they look at SAT scores, they just look at a number of things to really judge, do you produce or are your graduate students that can come in and do well in our universities? So those are things that they factor in. But that commitment certainly can have a big impact on other students who may want to apply to that university. So if you do go in that direction, you really need to honor that. And there's only, as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, there's only one way you can rescind that, and it's because of the financial obligation.
Yeah, so the question is, if you get accepted early decision, will it affect the financial aid package or the merit or scholarship money you get? And the tough answer is it may. We really have no way of knowing. The college will say it won't, but they can offer you what they want based on both your FAFSA and that CSS profile. But you are committing, so it may not be as strong of a package.
The other thing I want to add to that is that some of these universities have a significant endowment. They really do. And although your child, and I mentioned this before, get a certain allocation of merit scholarship, don't just accept that. You know, petition the school, call the school, you know, depending on where the school is, you know, go meet with an admission counselor, right? Make a case. And I can tell you, both of my daughters have benefited from using that approach. So don't just accept what they offer. You know, they want to see that you have a strong interest, right? They love to see students with strong interests, and they usually find a way. And a couple of things to think about that we didn't talk about, but there's some schools Once you get accepted to a school, sometimes that open up additional funding opportunities. So if you're going to go to a school and let's say you already decided you want to pursue a particular major and you apply and you get into that particular school in the university, sometimes that opens up scholarship opportunities. So they're just different ways to gain funding. And for some schools, after your first year in the school, that also opening up additional funding opportunities that the college or university would offer after you're there. It's less likely, but some schools do offer that.
We also have like templates if you are going to petition for more money. I worked with a student last year on a letter where, like Mr. Arthur said, you can kind of copy, cut and paste your scholarship from a different school in this letter, so we are happy to help you with that process, and there's absolutely no downside. They're not going to rescind your offer because you're asking for more money, so why not?
Any other questions?
Yeah. So yes, we're going to start it. The goal is for next
Tuesday.
week on Tuesday, and we will put it in the daily announcements, which the students hear, and when they open their Chromebooks, it will be listed on there as well. So again, we encourage and actually physically go out and try and recruit the students, but if you can encourage them from your end as well, yeah.
We take attendance. We take attendance at the College Cafe, so if any of the parents want to know if your child has been there, we have attendance from every College Cafe we've offered.
Yeah. Good question. So the question is, when do we send AP scores to colleges? Once you can choose to self-report your AP scores in your common application if they are strong scores, just to help with the admissions process. But to officially submit your scores, you're going to wait until you get accepted and decide which school you're going to. And then you'll officially send your scores in, and hopefully the college will award you different credits for those AP scores. Yeah.
You know, one of the things I would say to you just in applying, you know, don't just focus on large amounts of money, you know, because $500 adds up pretty quickly, right? So I try to encourage, you know, scholars, even if it's $350, $250, every dollar counts, right? Apply for everything, right? And hopefully you would accumulate a lot. So I just want to put that out there that there's a lot of money that's available, and we'll be sharing that information out. So please encourage. And with many of these scholarships, it's not based on parent income. Some do, but they look at the need base or they look at the merits behind the letter. So just keep that in mind. So it's not always need based.
And again, you can ask us any question that comes to mind later. You can email us, call us, or in your individual meetings. We're here to support you through the process. So please use us to your advantage. That's really it for this evening, if nobody has any other questions, yeah. And we appreciate you guys
Thank you for
taking time out of your
attending.
day to come.
And the students for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Great job.